What secret do you want to confess today? Story 1. I was extremely high last night. Really out of it. Hard substances. Not my usual, but I went too far. And in that state, I did something I can't even recognize myself for. I was with someone I didn't find attractive at all, did things I never thought I'd do, and let myself be treated in a way that now just makes me feel ashamed. The worst part is, I could have stopped. I had that sliver of awareness, that tiny voice saying, "Don't do this," but I ignored it. My mind wanted something else in that moment. I don't even know why. As soon as I left that room, I felt awful. I still feel it. I can't get his scent off me. I can't stop thinking about it, and I feel like I crossed a line I can't uncross. I regret what I did. I hate that I allowed it to happen. I don't know who needs to hear this, but don't ever let yourself get that far gone. I barely recognize myself today. I just needed to share this. Story 2. My husband and I have both worked from home for 5 years. That means 24/7 togetherness. No commutes, no office breaks, no solo grocery runs. Just us. Always, all the time. I really do love him. This isn't about wanting to leave or cheat or ruin our marriage, but somewhere along the way, I started to feel like I was fading. Like there was no space that was just mine. No thoughts that were just mine. No silence that wasn't filled with someone else's voice. So I lied and told him my company was hosting a mandatory multi-day event at HQ that's a 3-hour drive from our house. I even packed work clothes and my laptop to make it believable. In reality, I took PTO, booked a hotel 3 hours away, and left. Right now, I'm lying in a hotel bed just doing nothing. There's something incredibly peaceful about knowing this little pocket of time is mine and mine alone. No one knows where I am. No one needs me. I'm not hiding anything dramatic. I know lying isn't ideal, but I also know that if I'd told the truth, it would have hurt his feelings or started a weird argument. This way, I get what I need and no one gets hurt. And honestly, it's been amazing. I think my job will probably host more mandatory events in the future. Story 3. I was with my coworker just minutes after my girlfriend broke up with me. This happened during prom night. I wasn't able to text my girlfriend because I was busy having fun. She didn't attend prom because we were in a long-distance relationship. So after prom was over and I was heading to the house where I was hosting the after party, I checked my phone and saw a goodnight text from her. But we always say goodnight, I love you. So I figured she was probably upset. I jokingly replied with, "Damn okay, I love you too, babe." And she responded with one word, "Hi." When she does this, she does it a lot. It usually means leave me alone. So I responded with, "I'll text you tomorrow. I have an after party to host." And then came the breakup text. At that point, I was already at the house setting everything up. Some friends I'd invited who didn't go to high school, they're older, were helping get things ready. One of them, a coworker who had recently admitted she liked me, I had kindly declined because I had a girlfriend, was there too. I had to do the whole intro and kick off the party. Once everything started, I went back to texting my girlfriend. She basically told me she never really cared about me and only stayed in the relationship to keep herself entertained. She ended the text saying she was never emotionally invested, so it might as well end there. She said goodnight. Reading that, I felt hurt and used. I went back out to the party like nothing happened. I grabbed my coworker and we started dancing very close. I felt the chemistry, so I said, "Hey, I have a private room if you want some space." We went in, started making out, and things escalated. All of this happened maybe 10 to 15 minutes after the breakup. When it was over, we got dressed and went back out. I immediately felt guilty. It had only been an hour since the breakup, and I texted my ex to say I loved her, and that if this was really what she wanted, I'd accept it and move on. She made it clear she didn't want to continue, so I don't know why I feel this bad if she truly didn't care. Story 4. I feel hopeless, not even sad, just like there's no way out of this situation. I prefer logic, and logically speaking, I feel like I'm causing more harm than good. My father is an alcoholic and emotionally abusive. We don't talk much, only when it's about money. My mother is a recovering addict. She became dependent on her ADHD medication, and now she insists she can manage it at home. She has changed so much and now treats me terribly. She calls me worthless and tells me I can't do anything right. I have ADHD and autism, yet I keep getting A's in school and doing my best. Sometimes I may come across as cold or distant, but I am not a bad person. My mom constantly tells me to move out, but I don't have the money to do that. I used to work, but right now, my mind and body can't handle it with my neurodivergence and school at the same time. I have no money for therapy, and the doctor who used to treat me never listened to me. My father occasionally helps pay for my medication, but even buying food is difficult right now. I can't focus on school in this environment. I feel like a burden to everyone around me. No one sees the effort I put in, only my flaws. I have so much potential in math and philosophy, but I feel like I can't keep going. Everything in the world revolves around money. Long story short, I feel like I am nothing, and neither intelligence nor good grades can save me now. I hope heaven has a special place for people with difficult families, mental health struggles, and poverty. I always dreamed of becoming a philosophy teacher, living in a little house in the countryside with a few cats and a piano, so I could start playing music again. I hope that's what my heaven looks like. Story 5. It was my birthday, and I got completely wrecked. Left the club with a guy I'd literally just met that night. You can probably guess what happened there, so let's fast forward. I woke up in the middle of the night, still pretty tipsy and desperately needing to use the bathroom. So there I am, totally naked, stumbling around this stranger's shared house, frantically searching for the bathroom before it's too late. First door? Nope. Second door? It's the kitchen. And then it hits me. No slow buildup, just a full-on, uncontrollable stream. I'm clutching myself in panic, making a wild dash to another possible door. I fling it open. It's not a bathroom. It's a closet, filled with power tools. Yes, I accidentally relieved myself all over a pile of boxed-up tools. And of course, right after that, I find the actual bathroom. I try to clean up, but all I can find are 3 sad little squares of toilet paper. No towels, no wipes, just me and my embarrassment. I did what I could, then made a quick exit. To this day, I'm still beyond horrified. It's hands down the most embarrassing thing I've ever done. And just when I thought I was finally past it, boom, I see him again. 5 months later. Out in public, we passed each other. I silently prayed to every higher power that he didn't recognize me. That was just yesterday. Story 6. 3 years ago, my husband had an emotional affair with someone from his work. It never got physical. At least that's what he says. Maybe I believe him, maybe I don't. I found the text late one night when he left his phone face up on the bathroom counter. Long, poetic messages, inside jokes, shared secrets. He told her he dreamt about her. He said she made him feel alive again. It broke something in me. We fought, cried, screamed. He apologized, begged, went to therapy, and promised it would never happen again. I didn't leave. I told him I forgave him, but I don't think I did. I still smile when he walks into the room. I still make his coffee the way he likes it. I still lay next to him every night and say I love him. But there's a small, quiet part of me that never came back. A piece I didn't realize he took with him when he gave someone else what I thought was ours. I think about her sometimes. I've never met her, but she's burned into my mind. I wonder if she knew. I wonder if she cared. I wonder if she still thinks of him. We just bought a house together. Our life is full of normal things, grocery lists, weekend chores, dinner with friends. It's fine, good even. But when he kisses me goodbye in the morning, there's still that flicker of old hurt that whispers, "You weren't enough once. What makes you think you are now?" I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe I just needed to say it somewhere. I've been the strong, forgiving wife. I've been the one who moved on. But the truth is, I didn't. I just buried it deep and built a life over it. And I'm scared one day the cracks will start to show. Story 7. Throwaway account because I could never let anyone I know hear these thoughts. I've never even joked about this to my closest friends. My boyfriend and I met in college. Neither of us came from wealthy families, but we made things work. We went on dates using the allowance our parents gave us. It was always 50-50 between us, which we both preferred. I never liked the idea of being indebted to anyone, especially not to him, knowing he didn't have much more money than I did. I didn't mind the cheap dates because I loved him. I just wanted to be with him. He lives about 2 hours away from me. We didn't have cars, so we commuted to each other's places regularly. We'd take turns choosing where to hang out so that the effort was always equal. We were supposed to graduate in the same year, but during his final year, he decided to switch majors. That meant he'd need to spend a few more years in school. That was okay. He was just a bit delayed, and our plans to build a life together didn't change. I went ahead and got a job that paid minimum wage, but I was grateful. I just needed the experience. Then COVID hit. We didn't get sick, but I lost my job after only 2 months. Thankfully, he was able to continue his studies online. I didn't find another job until almost a year later. Still minimum wage, longer commute, but a paycheck. I kept changing jobs, always looking for better pay and a shorter commute. He graduated but couldn't find a job right away. I understood. Competition was fierce, and many people were out of work. He had a few short-term jobs, but none lasted longer than a month, even now. Eventually, I landed a job that paid decently and was close enough to walk to. I loved it, but the workload became overwhelming. There are times when the stress feels unbearable. I've had moments where the pressure felt so intense I could barely function. Since he doesn't really have any money, I've been going to his place to unwind. That's been our routine since COVID. I didn't mind it at first, but the cost of commuting and grabbing small meals has really started draining both my finances and mental health. I've been going there much less recently. My bank account finally has some breathing room, but my mind has been in a steady decline. I feel like I get headaches from the smallest things. My patience is paper thin, and I'm holding on with everything I've got. Lately, I've found myself fantasizing about calling it quits and marrying someone financially stable, or just being alone for a while. I just want to stop thinking about money all the time. I want to stop feeling like I have no choice but to keep a stressful job just to pay bills and support the people who rely on me. For once, I want to feel like there's someone I can lean on, someone who could catch me if I fell. I want to stop skipping meals just so we can afford essentials. I do love him. I really do. I know he would spend money to see me if he had any. I know he's trying, but I feel completely alone. The relationship feels one-sided. I'm spending all my extra money just to visit him, and I barely have anything left for myself. I can't even picture our future anymore. I can't imagine him landing a stable job. It takes him so long just to get an interview. I don't want to spend another 8 years hoping something changes. I'm exhausted, and I feel awful for even thinking this way. I never talk about it to my friends because I know they just tell me to break up with him. But how could I leave someone just because they're struggling financially? The worst part is, deep down, I know I'll never actually break up with him. I'm too afraid of hurting his feelings, so I'll keep choking down my own emotions just to avoid conflict. And honestly, I feel like I'm already stuck in my own version of hell. Story 8. I-28F was reminiscing about walking home from the bus stop during secondary school in the lovely town I used to live in. I love that place and had such a great time in year 9 when I met my best friends and read my favorite books on the bus home, when it suddenly hit me like a boulder. It wasn't normal for the bus driver to keep the doors locked at the end of the line unless I gave him my number. It wasn't normal for him to offer to drop me closer to my house just to find out where I lived. It wasn't normal for him to act inappropriately toward me before unlocking the doors. And it wasn't normal for him to drive past the bus stop if I was alone and hadn't agreed to meet again on the weekend. I still remember walking one weekend when he suddenly showed up near my family's home in an SUV and kept driving for a long time until I gave in and said I'd go on a date with him. After more incidents like that, I finally said no and switched to a different bus route. I never saw him again. How did none of this raise red flags for my 14-year-old self? And how did I manage to block all of this out for so long before realizing what it really was? I'm both relieved and saddened to finally get this off my chest. Story 9. I, 18 million, autistic, and my girlfriend, also autistic, who lives in another city, visit each other every weekend. During our visits, we usually get intimate. At first I enjoyed it, but over time it became too much for me, while she continued to initiate it. Because of my autism, it was extremely hard for me to say no clearly, even when I didn't want to. We talked about it and agreed that we should slow down. But despite that, she still initiated it during future visits. I then started texting her ahead of time to let her know that I didn't want anything physical on certain days. It still didn't help, and I still struggled to express discomfort in the moment. These situations made me feel uneasy, but 2 particular instances stood out. There were a few reasons I wanted to slow things down. The 2 main ones were, first, we didn't do much else during our time together. I wanted to go for walks or visit the park, but our time would mostly be spent being intimate. Second, she would get extremely anxious after each time, worrying she might be pregnant, even though we used protection and the risk was minimal. I tried to reassure her, but she wouldn't listen. Once I told her that I didn't feel comfortable being intimate during her period, but when we met that weekend, she still initiated it and said she really wanted to. I expressed that I didn't feel comfortable, but she kept insisting. Her tone made it clear she wasn't willing to take no for an answer. I felt like my opinion didn't matter. Out of discomfort and pressure, I gave in, without any enjoyment on my end. The second situation was when she began initiating intimacy unexpectedly. I didn't protest at first, but after a few minutes, I realized I wasn't in the mood at all. When I tried to stop her, she said she wouldn't. I didn't know what else to do, so I let it continue. I tried again, and she still said no. I felt like my voice didn't count, so I just lay there, pretending everything was okay. This continued for a few months, alongside other issues in our relationship. During that time, I tried to resolve things through calm conversations, suggesting we were being too frequent. Eventually, I reached my limit and directly explained everything. She apologized, said she didn't intend to hurt me, and explained that she had misunderstood my signals. Since then, she has made improvements and is more attentive to my comfort. But I still wonder, does this count as crossing a boundary, even though I'm a male and she's my girlfriend? And if so, what should I do next? Story 10. I've always seen myself as confident and attractive. I take care of myself, and I felt like I was enough. But finding out that my fiancé was looking at other women online, while I was literally sleeping a few inches away, really damaged that confidence. He could have woken me up. I love intimacy, and I have a stronger drive than he does. He admitted he developed a habit over time. Being single for so long, he had gotten used to certain behaviors. When we got together, our physical connection was strong. I did everything I could to meet his needs. I felt like I was giving my all, but he kept searching for social media influencers, certain types of videos and content, even after he said he had stopped. He's in therapy now and he says he's trying, but he's shifted to reading other types of explicit material, and I suspect he deletes his search history too. He told me he doesn't like seeing himself in videos, which is why he doesn't watch the ones I made for him. It makes me feel invisible. I've tried to understand. I've tried role play that I know he's interested in, but now every time I see a certain uniform or even walk through a crowd, I think about whether he's looking at someone else and imagining something different. He says he's happy with me. He says it's a habit he's trying to break. But deep down, I don't feel like enough. And when I express that, he tells me to stop internalizing it. But how could I not? Story 11. There's this guy that everyone around here seems to dislike. Seriously, almost everyone. They talk about his personal life like it's entertainment, and somehow I ended up being part of it. It started small, and at first I didn't think much of it. But lately it started to feel wrong. People share information about him constantly. We'll get texts about where he's headed or what he's buying, and some people actually go out of their way to mess with him. For example, someone finds out he's going to buy a specific brand of something, and suddenly a group goes and buys all of it before he gets there. We also pass along little conversation details to confuse him. We'll repeat certain words or themes when we know he's listening, just to throw him off. Some people even film him when he reacts, saying it's funny or that he deserves it. They justify it by saying he's done bad things or that he's unstable, but I'm starting to question where the line is. It started off feeling like a joke, like something harmless. But now it's become this weird group effort to make him feel like he's being watched, like everything around him is part of a setup. It reminds me of that movie with Jim Carrey, where the guy's whole life is being filmed without his knowledge. That's what it feels like now. People say they're doing it to teach him a lesson, but I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. I'm not sure how they're getting all this information about him, and I'm starting to regret being involved. I want to step back, but there's pressure. Like if you're not part of the group, you'll be the next target. There's a big difference between exposing someone and harassing them. And I'm starting to wonder if we've crossed that line. Story 12. I'm a 25-year-old woman and was in what felt like a truly happy relationship with a 29-year-old man. Just last year, I found out that he was asked to marry someone else. The only option he really has is to choose her, because if he chooses me, he would have to give up everything, his job, his family, and move to another country. I didn't want him to go through all of that, so I made the decision to stay by his side just as a friend until he gets married, and then quietly disappear. He doesn't know I plan to leave the country and never come back. The truth is, I had a really difficult childhood. I experienced trauma, I lost my father to suicide, and I was often mistreated at home simply because of my gender. But when I met him, he helped me begin to heal. I never thought about marriage or having children before, but with him, I actually believed I could give him everything. Finding out he couldn't marry me shattered me, but I chose to do what I thought was best for him. And now all the memories we've made haunt me. I've been crying for over a week, unable to process what life will look like without him. Every day feels heavier, and surviving each day is becoming harder and harder. Story 13. I'm a first-time homeowner. I've been living in my side of a duplex for about 6 months now. Before this, I lived with my parents or moved between rental apartments. I wanted to own a home when I realized that paying a mortgage could cost less than rent. I also wanted stability, especially after falling in love and deciding to start a family. Moving every year or two just wasn't sustainable anymore. I was tired of broken appliances, unresponsive maintenance, and noisy neighbors. I didn't want to raise a newborn in an apartment either, afraid of disturbing those around us. But the only single-family homes I could afford were over 100 years old. They had uneven floors, dangerously steep staircases, and some properties bordered drop-offs or unfenced edges. I saw homes with water damage, warped floors, exposed insulation in attics, and neglected basements. Many were inherited properties left to decay, full of mold, pests, and mess. I was searching for a place to build a life, but every option was disappointing. The houses were cramped, poorly maintained, and often completely impractical for a growing family. Even worse, the bidding wars were intense. So my fiance and I settled on a duplex. We still share a wall, but at least it has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and is relatively modern. It was far from perfect, but it was okay. Now I find myself feeling incredibly bitter. I scroll through social media and see people in beautiful homes, stay-at-home parents in massive houses, gorgeous remodels. It seems like everyone else is living the dream while I'm stuck in a small duplex. What's worse is knowing that my mortgage is higher than what my parents paid for a brand new 5-bedroom house in the early 2000s. And yet, I earn more money than they did at my age. It's maddening. Recently, my family exchanged addresses to send holiday cards, and I looked up the homes they live in. Most of them have better detached homes for far less money. I felt crushed. I have this dream home in my mind, a place where I don't have to share walls, somewhere I can have a little garden, maybe raise chickens, host birthdays and sleepovers, and have space for a growing family. But right now that dream feels out of reach. I just needed to say this out loud. I feel terrible for feeling so jealous, but it's how I've been feeling lately. Story 14. I'm not even 18 yet, and I already feel like a complete failure. It honestly feels like my life is over before it ever really got a chance to begin. I've been carrying trauma that's made it hard to trust people or feel safe in the world. I struggled with emotional pain starting around age 9 or 10. My thoughts often spiral over the smallest setbacks, convincing me that people I care about suddenly hate me just because they took a little too long to respond. I dislike my reflection so much that I rarely even look in the mirror anymore. At one of my lowest points, I didn't even feel worthy of being called a person. As if that wasn't enough, in 2023 I developed a serious chronic illness. Practically overnight, I became almost entirely bedridden. I had to leave school and never got any qualifications. Not that I could handle a job anyway. I have trouble staying in touch with friends because my mind convinces me they secretly don't want me around. Going outside became so overwhelming that I avoided it completely for a long time, and I'm only now slowly starting to work past that. In the past year, I've seen someone my own age in person just once. The only other people I see are my immediate family and doctors. I haven't gone outside for fun in over a year. I feel like I'm falling behind in every possible way. No education, no job, declining health. I'm also autistic, which makes social interactions harder for me, and I've always felt like the weird kid who didn't quite fit in. These days, even basic things like taking a shower or feeling any strong emotion can trigger painful symptoms. It's exhausting. I'm turning 17 soon, and instead of being excited, I'm dreading it. It just marks another year of struggling. It's like every time I think things can't get worse, life proves me wrong. I don't really have a resolution to this. I just needed to say it, to get it out, because holding it in has been making it harder to keep going. Story 15. It all started out kind of casually. Just me and my best friend Jess, messing around with pills now and then. Nothing serious, or so we thought. Both of us were going through tough times at home, and for a while it felt good just to escape everything for a little while. We'd chill in her room, play music, and pretend the world didn't exist. But it stopped being fun pretty quickly. We started needing them just to function. I kept lying to myself, saying we were in control. But then one night changed everything. She took too much. I found her, and she wasn't breathing. It felt like a nightmare. I still can't get that image out of my head. After Jess passed, I completely shut down. Everything felt numb. I didn't care about school, friends, food, nothing. I kept using just to block out the pain, but it only made things worse. I reached a point where I honestly questioned if there was even a reason to keep trying. Then I remembered how Jess would talk about God sometimes, especially when she was trying to stay clean. She used to say, maybe he hasn't given up on us yet. I didn't know if I believed it, but I was desperate. I started praying, crying, asking for help. That night, I promised myself I was going to try and turn things around. Detox was horrible. The physical and emotional pain was overwhelming, but I kept holding on, even when it felt impossible. I wrote letters to Jess in an old notebook, played music to get through the nights, and prayed even when I wasn't sure anyone was listening. Little by little, it started to get better. Now I'm clean. I have a part-time job, I've met some genuinely kind people, and I found a church where I don't feel judged, just accepted. I still miss Jess every single day, but I know she'd want me to keep going, and I am. For her, for myself. I hope she's at peace now. I like to think the beautiful skies I see sometimes are from her. And when my time comes, I hope I get the biggest hug from her up there. Story 16. I'm a 28-year-old man. I got married at 25, and it happened pretty quickly. It was an arranged marriage. Before that, I had only one relationship at 21. It ended when I found out she had been unfaithful. Even though she tried to make things right and rebuild what we had, I couldn't fully trust her again. But during that time, she treated me with so much care and comfort, both emotionally and physically. We spent nearly 6 months together, seeing each other almost every day. The connection and support she gave me is something I've never been able to replicate. After we separated due to my temper and disagreements, the pandemic hit. I tried to distract myself with other relationships, but nothing felt the same. I even tried hiring companionship, thinking variety would help, but none of it compared to her. When I got married, I quickly realized that the bond wasn't there. My wife didn't connect with me emotionally or physically the way my ex did, no matter how much I tried. My mental health started to suffer. She was emotionally distant, resistant to change, and hard to communicate with. She believed having a child would fix the marriage, and so we did have a child, but after the birth, things got worse. Her family started insulting and hurting me emotionally without reason, and we ended up separating for almost 8 months. During that time, I tried to move on, and even had a few short-term connections, but nothing interested me. Eventually, my wife came back and apologized. I accepted her for the sake of our child and tried to rebuild something. But the truth is, I still feel emotionally disconnected. I care about her, I support her, and I want the best for her, especially since she's seeing a specialist for health reasons and has been diagnosed with a mental condition. I try to be there for her, but the truth is, I feel emotionally empty. I've tried to be intimate when she asks, but it's hard to be fully present. I don't hate her, but the pain from the past and the way things unfolded left a deep scar. She isn't my ex, and I know I shouldn't compare, but I can't help feeling like something is missing. I still care, but I feel lost. I don't know what to do. Story 17. I met my best friend A after they were already with their partner. A has been one of the kindest, most selfless people I've ever known. They go above and beyond for everyone they care about. A has supported me through some of the darkest moments in my life, comforted me during heartbreaks, and even saved my life more than once. Almost every moment of their life is spent trying to make the lives of those around them better. But A can never accept a compliment. Even their closest friends and family get met with a cringe or a look of discomfort anytime they try to express appreciation. It's like A doesn't recognize the massive impact they have on the people around them. When I first met A, their behavior around B was unsettling. Anytime B called, A would answer in a panic, dropping everything, walking away from the group, speaking quietly while the voice on the other end was loud and aggressive. Then A would come back, say they had to go home, and ask me to drop them off around the corner from their house instead of in front. It took years before this behavior faded. Even now, though, I see signs that something's wrong. B won't drive or get a license, so A has to take them everywhere, even for small errands. But when A has an emergency, it's me or my partner stepping up, while B stays home. I've seen B push A to tears with constant criticism, then either brush it off with a hug and a dismissive comment, or walk away and leave A crying alone. Occasionally, things seem okay. They cook together, laugh, and genuinely enjoy each other's company. But those moments are rare. Over the past few decades of knowing them, I've seen enough to feel deeply concerned. It seems like B knows A has issues with self-worth and uses that to maintain control. And A doesn't seem to realize it, or maybe they do, but don't feel like they deserve better. I've never seen or heard of any physical harm between them, and I believe there isn't any. But emotional and mental strain is still incredibly damaging. I've developed strong feelings for A over time, and I worry that it's clouding my judgment. Still, I can't ignore what I see. My partner shares my concern, and we talk about it often. I know it's not my place to tell someone who they should love, but watching someone you care about endure what looks like constant emotional exhaustion, it's heartbreaking. I don't know what to do. I just needed to get this off my chest. Story 18. I've been feeling ignored, disrespected, misunderstood, and emotionally hurt by my parents. I constantly feel like I'm being put down, and it's hard to shake the sense that my dreams don't matter to them. Anytime I want to pursue something, they always find a reason to say no or shut it down. I honestly don't know what to do anymore. My life has become repetitive, almost numb, and the feeling of being a mistake just doesn't go away. My parents have said things like, "You're wasted," and "You're such a failure," so often that I've started to believe it. It's crushing to hear those things from the people who are supposed to support you. I only have a handful of people I feel like I can lean on, and ironically, most of them are people I met online, especially from the Reddit community. I'm extremely grateful for them, but today I'm just overwhelmed. I'm struggling with regrets about existing and feeling desperate to escape this environment. My parents always said they wanted a daughter, so it feels like being their son means I'll never be good enough. I'm not writing this for pity. I genuinely want help. I want to know how to deal with these feelings and how to cope in an environment that makes me feel unwanted. Story 19. I'm not totally sure who I should talk to about this, so I figured I'd share it anonymously. Growing up, my parents were always focused on weight and dieting, even though they were generally healthy people. When I was in 5th grade, they started doing the keto diet and made my older brother and me follow it too. We were told we'd get grounded if they caught us eating sugar or carbs at school. I hated it. It made me feel awful about myself, and I resented them for caring so much about not only their own weight, but the weight of their 10 and 14-year-old children. As a result, I struggled with body image issues and disordered eating for a long time. I still do, although therapy has helped me a lot in the past few years. Thankfully, my self-image is slowly improving. Now, that resentment I once felt is starting to turn into concern. My parents have recently started using Ozempic, even though they're not diabetic or even overweight. They've openly talked about lying to their doctors to avoid being taken off the medication and even stockpiling it. I don't know what to do. My parents don't take me seriously even in the best moments. They're stubborn and struggle with being wrong or vulnerable. I'm worried that if I bring up my concerns, it'll either be brushed off or spark a fight, and I really don't want to argue. I want what's best for them, but I don't know what would get through to them. I don't even know if it's my place to say anything, or if I should just let it go and stay quiet. I'm stuck between concern and uncertainty. Story 20. This is really personal, but I've been holding it in for so long, and I just need to let it out. I'm a 24-year-old woman, born to my parents later in their lives, around when they were 42. 4 years ago, I lost both my grandfather and my father within 2 months of each other. It was incredibly hard to process, but what hurts most is the guilt I carry because I feel like maybe, just maybe, I could have prevented it. My grandfather was from a very traditional background. He liked control, structure, and routine. As he aged into his 80s, he started having digestive issues and was clearly struggling emotionally. He became withdrawn, and while I noticed the signs of depression, it was hard to convince my family to take it seriously. Mental health is still such a taboo subject in many Indian families. I tried to bring it up, but they thought it was just a phase, something that would pass. He often talked about feeling tired of life, saying he wished he could go peacefully like his siblings. I tried to talk to him, help him see the good things he still had, but I don't think I did enough. One day while I was in my room with my headphones on, I thought I heard him call my name. I hesitated, and when I finally got up, I heard a loud noise. He had fainted. He fell and injured his back. Though surgery went well, he never fully recovered. I carry the guilt of not getting to him faster, of not insisting harder on psychiatric care, of being too afraid to push for what he needed. I loved him, even if I had been scared of him growing up because of how strict he was. But I wish I had done more. He missed out on so many moments I wanted to share with him. My graduation, my first job, my move to Mumbai. I often wonder why he couldn't make it when others do. Then just 2 months later, I lost my dad. He had been a heavy smoker for years and had heart problems. He would get angry easily, and we had our share of arguments. But despite everything, he was an incredible father. He was there for me in every possible way, tying my shoes, packing my bag, helping around the house, even cooking when my mom wasn't well. He truly gave his all. But during his bad phases, especially when he smoked more, things became hard. He once told me that I didn't love or respect him anymore, and that broke my heart. Still, I held on, hoping it was the addiction talking and not him. One day he had a heart attack. He didn't survive. At the funeral, people told me I should have handled things better, as if it was my responsibility to save him. My mom defended me, saying no child should bear that kind of burden. But the guilt didn't go away. Now it's just me and my mom. She's been through so much, watching both her father and husband pass away in the same year. She's pushing through it all for me. I constantly wonder if I can at least save her. But the harder I try to hold on to something, the more it feels like it slips through my fingers. Sometimes when I look at her, I feel like the worst person in the world. Like all of this happened because of me. Story 21. I'm a pretty average guy. Definitely not into violence, not into guns as a hobby, and honestly a bit of a soft-spoken person. But I work a nighttime delivery job in an area where things can get dangerous. So I started carrying for self-protection. Nothing extreme, usually just a small handgun. One night, 3 armed individuals tried to rob me. I pulled out my .380 and defended myself. I fired at all 3 of them. They ran off and were quickly caught. Thankfully, they all survived. The police arrived at the scene, went through everything, and made it clear that it was a case of self-defense. After about 45 minutes, they said I was free to go. On my way home, I was surprised to feel incredibly calm. I laid down in bed, and just 90 minutes after what had happened, I felt this overwhelming sense of peace. I asked myself, did that really happen? And then had the deepest, most restful sleep I've had in years, maybe even since I was a child. The next morning, I didn't even need an alarm. I got up feeling completely refreshed and something that never happens. What shocked me most was that I didn't feel shaken, angry, or haunted. There was no trauma, no nightmares, nothing. Just calm. I didn't feel rage toward the people who tried to rob me. I didn't even think much about what happened to them after. All I knew was that when the moment came, I acted. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just wanted to protect myself. I've never been someone who seeks out danger or excitement. I still don't fantasize about violence or want anything to do with that world. But I do wonder why I felt that way afterward. That sense of clarity, of stillness, was unlike anything I've ever felt before. I don't know what it all means, but I needed to talk about it. Maybe someone else out there has experienced something similar. I guess I just needed to say it out loud. Story 22. I've felt guilty about this for years. But when I was around 7 or 8 years old, I went to a dance studio and I started experiencing anxiety, though I didn't know what it was back then. Every time my mom dropped me off, I would start panicking, convinced that she might get into a car accident or something bad would happen to her while she was gone. One day she came inside the dance studio for a moment before class started, and I felt a huge sense of relief. But soon after, she had to leave to run errands. I kept looking out the window during class to make sure she was still there. And when I saw her wave goodbye and walk away, I panicked. I ran out of the classroom crying and begged her not to leave. I was so overwhelmed and embarrassed that when she asked if I was being bullied, I just nodded, because I didn't want to explain what was really going on. When class ended, she asked me who had been bullying me, and I randomly pointed to a girl in my class. This girl had never been mean to me. In fact, she was really sweet. Of course, this turned into a whole thing. The instructor, some parents, the girl and I all sat in a room and had a conversation about it. I made something up, like saying she called me names like bobblehead. The girl didn't understand what I was talking about, because none of it was true. But she and her mom were incredibly kind and apologized anyway. Ever since, I've felt terrible about it. It still haunts me sometimes. I never meant to hurt her. I just didn't know how to deal with my emotions at that age. I'm so sorry for what I did, and I hope that girl is doing well wherever she is. She didn't deserve that. Story 23. I live with my grandmother, who is financially struggling herself, and I don't have money for rent tomorrow, even though I said I would. A few months ago, I was hired by a contractor to do transcription work for Social Security. They said it paid $25 an hour. I moved in with my grandmother about 3 months ago into a retirement community where I'm technically not supposed to live. If management found out, we could both be evicted. We were both so happy when I got the job. My grandmother asked me to contribute $300 a month toward rent once I got my first paycheck. But right before I was supposed to start, I got an email saying the company didn't have work for me at the moment. They promised to let me know when I could begin, but I haven't heard from them since. I didn't have the heart to tell her what happened. She was so excited and proud. So instead of going to work, I started donating plasma and going to the library to look for other jobs. I was hoping to earn enough from donations to cover rent, but most of that money went toward groceries. In the meantime, I've been trying to stay hopeful. I write poetry, and deep down, I was hoping I might finally gain some recognition. I was in graduate school for creative writing and had worked so hard to get in. But I had a traumatic experience with a therapist who was later found to be defrauding Medicaid. She criticized my writing and discouraged me so much that I dropped out. It hit me deeply. I ended up in the hospital for 3 months and lost my job during that time due to excessive absenteeism, which meant I couldn't even qualify for unemployment benefits. That's how I ended up living here with my grandmother, trying to rebuild everything from scratch. I self-published a book-length poem that I had written for my graduate thesis, and I kept telling myself that if I worked hard and was creative enough, maybe I could still make something of it. Maybe I could make the rent money in time. But that hasn't happened. It's been a complete disaster. I have no idea how to explain it to her tomorrow when she asks about the $300. She really needs it, and I feel like I've failed her. The guilt is overwhelming. Story 24. I just need to write this out somewhere. My father was abusive toward my mother, and for many years it gave me an intense fear of men. Even now, I still have a strong panic response to raised voices or sudden perceived aggression. Most of my friends are autistic, just like I am. One of them has a condition known as pathological demand avoidance. It causes him to react with intense stress and sometimes a loud or aggressive tone, especially when his mom asks him to do things. He's always really apologetic afterward because he knows it's involuntary, but it still triggers that old response in me. Then I feel bad for feeling that way. And because I can't always hide my reaction, he sometimes picks up on it and starts feeling bad for how he reacted, which makes me feel even worse. It's like a loop. I feel bad, he feels bad that I felt bad, and then I feel bad again for making him feel bad. Sometimes it even loops back again. Logically, I know I haven't done anything wrong. I know I can't fix it. It's just that certain moments hit vulnerable spots in both our minds, but still that sense of guilt creeps in. Oddly enough, it's also comforting to know that I'm not alone in this kind of emotional loop. Even if our triggers are different, knowing that someone else understands makes it feel less isolating. Story 25. A co-worker helped pull me out of my shell, and we ended up talking for months. Back in 2022, I worked the night shift with someone named Celia. She was around 30 at the time. One morning at 4 a.m., she messaged me out of the blue and we started talking. At first, it was innocent enough, and we eventually stopped messaging for a while. A few months later, I reached out again, and that's when things really started to change. We began chatting almost every night. There was a strong connection and a lot of playful banter between us. The conversations got more personal over time, and we bonded over shared humor and experiences. We always said we wouldn't develop feelings, but the chemistry was undeniable. I think both of us ended up caring more than we expected, even if we never fully admitted it. Eventually, we started talking about meeting in person, but it never came together. Life got in the way and we drifted apart. Still, I think about her often. The connection we shared was rare. Genuine laughter, deep conversations, and that effortless way we understood each other. Even now, I haven't found that kind of bond with anyone else. Sometimes I wonder if we'll cross paths again someday. Who knows? Maybe we will. Story 26. I don't think I'm going to get pregnant, but I'm still terrified that I might. Hi Reddit, I figured I'd share this here and talk to my best friend before telling my parents. I do plan to tell them eventually, but right now, I'm still feeling fragile about everything that happened. And just typing this is making me tear up. A few days ago, a friend came over to visit. We hung out, got some food, and relaxed at my house. At some point, we started talking about crushes, and I told him that I had a crush on him when we first met. But back then, he had a girlfriend. He said he had similar feelings but didn't act on them either. I explained that while those feelings had mostly faded, sometimes I still found him attractive. He asked if I ever wanted to act on it, and I admitted I was curious. I also told him that I was a virgin, and he offered to teach me if I wanted. I told him I was nervous, but agreed. He was respectful during the experience. He checked in with me multiple times and made sure I was okay. Still, afterwards, I couldn't help but feel strange. He gave me a quick hug, said he had something to do, which he mentioned earlier, and then he left. What really bothers me now is how I felt afterwards. Even though I agreed and he didn't pressure me, I felt emotionally off, like maybe it meant more to me than it did to him. He deleted his social media account shortly after, and while he told me it wasn't related, it left me feeling confused and anxious. I know people might criticize me for not being more careful, especially since we didn't use protection, but in the moment, I was overwhelmed by nerves and didn't know how to ask. It was all so fast, and I honestly didn't know what to expect. I'm 19 and he's 18. We're close in age, and this wasn't some reckless thing for me. I planned to go to the pharmacy to get the morning after pill, and I already have a doctor's appointment coming up for something unrelated, but I'll be talking to my doctor about this too. I know I need to tell my parents, and I will. I just hope they understand. Story 27. Back in the 80s, I worked in fast food restaurants, something that felt like a rite of passage for many at the time. I've always been a people person, so I usually worked in the drive-thru. One summer, I visited Hershey Park and admired how enthusiastic the ride announcers were. Their energy and creativity inspired me. I decided to bring that same excitement to my own job. I combined the style of those announcers with Dan Aykroyd's lounge singer persona from SNL and created a whole experience out of the drive-thru. Welcome to the Westminster Burger King drive-thru. May I take your order? I'd say with enthusiasm. Then I'd add things like, your total is $5.85. What a bargain. Please drive through safely. My voice was full of excitement, and sometimes people would compliment me, even saying I sounded like a carnival ride announcer. Without breaking character, I'd say, thank you for riding the Westminster Burger King drive-thru. Enjoy your Whopper. Eventually, that little act started to get old. Later on, I worked at a McDonald's in Frederick, Maryland, where they had a unique drive-thru setup. The cashier's booth was in a separate room, connected to the kitchen by a conveyor belt. It was a lonely station, with no one supervising us. One day, I came up with an idea. I started adding a dime to each customer's total. Nothing noticeable, I thought. My plan was to just give the correct change if anyone ever noticed. But no one did. The problem was, I didn't keep track of how many people I overcharged. By the end of my shift, I had no clue how much extra money I had collected. I had to guess. I'm sure my register was completely off that day, and I never tried it again. Looking back, it was a silly and poorly thought-out scheme. But hey, at least my drive-thru voice lives on in my memories. Story 28. The heartbreak that led to me dropping out of med school. When I was 16, I got accepted into one of the top state medical universities. During my first year, I met a girl who was, by all standards, beautiful. I instantly developed a crush on her. With a little help from friends, I found out she was single and might even be interested in me. That same day, she saved me a seat in the lecture hall. But I was so shy, I couldn't bring myself to sit beside her. After class, I managed to say a shaky, "Hi, how are you?" Later, I texted her, apologizing for being awkward. She responded kindly, something along the lines of, "Don't worry, just be yourself." I tried talking to her again, but I was too nervous and didn't know how to keep the conversation going. Eventually, I gave up. Some time passed, and she removed me from her friends list. Soon after, she started seeing another guy from our class. They were always together, holding hands, laughing, and even showing affection openly. Since we were in the same specialty, I saw them every day. It became unbearable. The feelings of rejection, regret, and sadness built up until I was deeply depressed. After finishing my second year, I got the opportunity to transfer to another university. It meant losing a year and repeating courses, but I didn't care. I just needed to leave that environment. Around the same time, I developed tuberculosis, likely from the stress I had been under. I spent a year in treatment and another in recovery. By the time I was healthy again, I had lost interest in medicine altogether. In fact, I began to resent it. Eventually, I dropped out. To this day, I've told everyone I transferred for better academic facilities. The truth? Now you know it. Story 29. I've always been a curious person, even as a kid, constantly asking questions and trying to understand how and why things work. As the French say, I was always chasing le pourquoi du comment, the why behind the why. But paired with a psychological condition I was diagnosed with, that curiosity slowly turned into constant overthinking. It started feeling like my mind was stuck in overdrive. Every word, gesture, or detail I noticed would get stuck in my head, looping endlessly and making life feel chaotic and overwhelming. When I started therapy, I began learning more about human behavior, first from my therapist and then through my own curiosity. What once felt like a burden started becoming a source of insight. Therapy helped me become more self-aware. I learned how to observe my thoughts without letting them consume me. I began developing tools to manage my emotions, and I used them to explore my own mind in new, more intentional ways. I still overthink, especially at night, but now I see it differently. Sometimes it fuels my imagination, it helps me develop ideas and even form personal theories. My therapist once used the word metacognition to describe what I was trying to explain. It felt like a revelation, a word that captured so much. Even now, I sometimes feel consumed by it, but I try to use it with purpose. It feels like running experiments in my head. I just hope I can keep it all in balance and not lose myself in the process. Story 30. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and one of the hardest parts for me has been the intrusive thoughts that revolve around prayer. I call them compulsive bad prayers. It's difficult to explain, but I'll try my best because I want it to stop. OCD doesn't just bring intrusive thoughts. It presents them in ways that feel impossible to ignore. Sometimes it might be something silly like imagining a dessert appearing in front of me, but other times the thoughts are darker. When they surface, my brain creates this anxious urgency to neutralize them by thinking or doing something in response. Over time, in my desperation to calm that anxiety, I started mentally going along with the intrusive thoughts, almost as a way to force them out of my system. Sometimes I'd mentally say amen, just to feel some peace and move on, even though I didn't truly mean what the thought was suggesting. It was a coping mechanism someone once recommended, and it does help reduce the anxiety. But afterwards, I feel guilty. One example that keeps coming back is the idea of large-scale events happening. And the only reason I would even entertain that kind of thought is because it would give my anxiety a break. Like if everything ended, the noise in my head would too. But that's not how I truly feel when I'm calm and grounded. I don't wish for harm or destruction. I don't want to hurt anyone. These thoughts feel foreign to who I am. The guilt eats at me. I want to be a good person. I don't want to live in fear of what my mind might present next. And I definitely don't want to confuse my coping methods with what I truly believe or feel. I wish I didn't have to deal with this at all. When I'm doing well mentally, these thoughts aren't there. But during moments of distress, they flood in, and I do my best to manage them with the tools I have. I'm not looking for judgment. I'm just trying to be honest about the battle in my mind and hoping someone out there understands. Story 31. About a month ago, I was trying to fall asleep, but I kept getting woken up by the sound of my upstairs neighbor's dog barking, whining, and scratching at the door. I have to wake up early for work, and this had been going on for hours, about 6 straight, without a break. It wasn't the first time either. It had happened a few other times, but those instances were shorter and I could usually ignore them. This particular night, though, I was beyond exhausted and getting more irritated by the minute. I don't know my upstairs neighbors personally. I don't even know what they look like or have a way to contact them, so I never talked to them face to face about the noise. Around midnight, I reached my limit. I went upstairs and knocked on their door for several minutes, but no one answered. Out of frustration, I went back to my apartment, wrote a note, and left it in front of their door. Looking back, I'm embarrassed by what I wrote. I was overtired and just reacted impulsively. The note said something like, "Please shut your dog up. Is it okay? This has been going on for weeks and I have to wake up early. Sincerely, your downstairs neighbors." Yes, I signed it from your downstairs neighbors, which in hindsight was not the best idea. I basically outed myself. I guess I just wanted to express how overwhelmed I felt. The next day, I remembered what I did and felt full-on regret. I went back up hoping the note was still there so I could take it back, but it was gone. For a while, I tried to move past the embarrassment, but just a few days ago, I ran into my upstairs neighbor in the stairwell. He saw me coming from the apartment below his, and it clicked. He had saved the note and asked if I was the one who left it. I panicked and said I had no idea who wrote it, blaming it on a friend of my roommate who had been staying with us. He seemed to let it go. He even started to say that they'd been having a bad day, then stopped and said, "As long as it's not you, never mind," and left. Now I just feel awful about it. I'm worried he might bring it up to management. I doubt the note came off as threatening, but I can't stop thinking about how it might have been interpreted. I've thought about going up to apologize, but I keep going back and forth about it. A part of me just wants to forget the whole thing and bury the memory. Story 32. I've worn a fake engagement ring for 5 years to keep men away, and I've never taken it off. This has been on my mind lately, and I figured this might be the place where I can finally say it out loud. About 5 years ago, I went through a breakup that deeply affected me. It was my second serious relationship, and it left me emotionally exhausted. The first had already worn me down through emotional manipulation, and the second ended with a betrayal I never saw coming. At the time, I was working full-time as an accountant in a very male-dominated environment. I began to notice how often seemingly friendly conversations with male coworkers or clients would suddenly cross the line into uncomfortable territory. I constantly had to balance being polite but firm, friendly but not too open. It felt like walking a tightrope every day. Then one morning as I was getting ready for work, I spotted an old ring in my jewelry box. On a whim, I slipped it onto my ring finger. I didn't think much of it, until I realized something that week. People treated me differently. The stares became shorter. The lingering questions stopped. The comments faded. Questions about my personal life disappeared. It was like I had placed a silent boundary between me and the rest of the world, and I appreciated the space it gave me. What began as a spontaneous idea turned into a daily habit. That ring became my shield. It wasn't about resenting men or swearing off love. It was about taking back a sense of control in situations where I'd often felt uncomfortable or scrutinized. 5 years later, I still wear it. I've healed in many ways since then, but I haven't taken the ring off. Not because I'm hiding anymore, but because it reminds me of the strength I found in myself. The quiet strength I used to rebuild who I am on my own terms. Maybe one day I'll take it off. Maybe I'll meet someone who makes me feel truly safe and seen, but for now it stays right where it is. It might sound unusual to some, but to me, it was survival.